Hello, One Piece fans. It's the Dawn of the Dawn. I'm Sammy, the Wildcard Warlord.
And I'm Ethan, the Budget Broker.
And today we will be discussing just who we are, what's going on. This is the first episode of the One Piece Podcast.
The Dawn of the Dawn. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, so let's get started. Ethan, who are you? Give us your TCG story a little bit.
My story. Well, it all started back on the kindergarten days. I was introduced to Pokemon through the anime, and I started collecting those cards. Had no clue how to play, but slowly I collected cards. Then after a while, when I evolved, you could say, in junior high, I started branching out. I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Big time. I started playing. I started going to locals, stuff like that. And then now recently, One Piece, and it has been amazing. How about you, Sammy?
Very similarly, I got into Pokemon, not because of the anime, but because of the games. Collected the cards, tried to play with them, did not work very well. Come maybe closer to high school than middle school, I'd say. I'm getting into Yu-Gi-Oh!, the show, playing the games. And then recently, just like you, One Piece. Although I am not a One Piece fan, I'm just a TCG fan.
Boo.
Yeah, boo all you want, but I really like the card game, so maybe I'll watch the anime one day. But
One day. As opposed to Sammy, I am a huge fan of the anime. I am the content supervisor of the anime, you could say.
Mm-hmm. So we recently went to locals for the first time. This is a One Piece podcast, but we are generally pretty new to this, so you'll probably learn as we go.
Exactly.
But we have put a lot of research into it so far. We went to locals, like I said, played a couple matches. How did your local experience go?
Oh, it was awesome. It was great. I played against you, actually.
Oh yeah, we did play a second round.
Round 2. That's right.
We will go into that further later down the road, but
it was great. It was that wasn't my first locals. I went to a different one at a different store. It was fun. The vibe is just genuinely just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to meet a lot of new people who are excited about One Piece and the card game. It's just really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Love to see it.
What was your final placing? Because I know you beat me in the second round, but
I got 5th place overall, I believe, at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 rounds total. I won 2 of my matches and lost 1 at the end.
Yeah, I lost all my matches. I fought against Blackbeard twice.
You can't blame yourself for that.
I really can't.
Blame RNG.
RNG, yeah. But it is a relatively small locals. I'm pretty sure the other one that you went to is bigger.
It's bigger, but not by much.
Yeah. So our area is not like too into One Piece. Our locals does have lots more Yu-Gi-Oh, which is that's where we learned about the One Piece locals.
Exactly.
But I do want to go to more as we learn more about the card game.
As we set off on our grand adventure.
Exactly. Okay, so let's dive into what decks we played. Because as I said, you played Blackbeard.
That's right.
What's your deck about? Like, how did you build it, I guess?
Yes. Blackbeard is a very powerful current deck. It has seen a lot of play in the meta recently. Blackbeard itself is more on the more difficult side of the spectrum of decks currently. The strategy revolves around the leader. He makes all of your cards. He negates all on play effects of your own cards. So you kind of have to work around that and build around the stipulation. But once you do, you can find a really powerful deck. His main ability, not his secondary, but his main ability is that you are able to discard a card from hand, and until the end of your opponent's next turn, all of their on-play abilities are negated, which is really good, but it also requires you to know matchups and know when to counter the on-play effects. And also, sometimes your opponent just isn't running a lot of on-plays.
I'd imagine that is not very good in the mirror.
No, but there's a lot of synergy cards that that go with the Blackbeard deck. A lot of the Blackbeard type pirates all do not have on play effects, which is helpful, especially including in the deck. But Sammy, tell me about your deck. What did you play?
I was playing the Uta film deck, film Uta, green, lots of event cards, lots of value. You're playing 3 cost Nami that lets you search. Also, New Genesis, which is the same thing, basically for free. So the whole deck is about generating value, getting lots of cards in hand so that you can counter or that you can play out with like 7 cost Luffy that comes in with another character from hand, which probably also comes out with another character from hand if it's Brook. Just lots of searching and value. That's what I normally go for. And that's what I played. It did not work as well because lots of them are on play effects, so it gets pretty countered by Blackbeard.
That is true.
But yeah, my first round was against Bello Betty, which is really fast. So I got taken down before I could really establish any sort of value engine.
My last round, which I lost, was also against Bello Betty. The aggro playstyle of the deck definitely countered Blackbeard as well as Uta. It sounds like.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I just had unfortunate matchups. I feel. Although I did learn because I'm playing I'm Invincible, which I don't know what the term is. I just say it stands. It sets Uta as active.
Yeah.
So Uta can attack again after you've already attached the Dawn to get the value from Uta herself. Which Uta, when she attacks, you pay a Dawn, or if she has a Dawn, then you look at the top card. If it's a film, you add it to your hand. But yeah, so how did that Bella Betty match go? You said it was very aggressive.
Oh yeah, it was very very scary. Honestly,
yeah,
very very aggro. It's difficult to set up blockers when they're swinging for 8k attackers
and reducing your blockers
every
power.
game. That's
yeah.
right.
I mean they play like Imperio Ivankov. Ivankov? I don't remember.
Ivankov.
Yeah, but they play both the 5 cost and the 4 cost. And the 4 cost, I remember that they just kept cheating out all these big guys that all had their effects, and it was a little frustrating just seeing them just throw things down as I just sat there helplessly.
Unfortunately, Bella Betty isn't even one of the top contenders in the ranked right now.
Yeah, I've just seen that it's quite budget.
Exactly.
From what because I was talking to my opponent afterwards.
Exactly.
Mentioned that it was it was budget. It was really strong and fast. Really.
As the self-proclaimed budget broker myself, I am I'm a fan of all things budget, and having budget cards is awesome.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to that. Yeah, the budget broker. So you say that you play lots of budget decks. Tell me about how that feels.
Budgeting is a interesting thing. I've never been one to spend a lot of money, especially on singles. So budgeting has always been something that's always called to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have built several other One Piece decks. My yellow blue queen deck was the first actual deck that I built, and it was very budgeted. I believe it was $15 total, and it served me well, I will say.
Mm-hmm. So do you ever feel like you're at a major disadvantage when you go to like Yu-Gi-Oh locals or the last night at One Piece locals? Did you feel like you were majorly disadvantaged or?
No, I wouldn't say so. It all depends on really what you're playing on and how well you do. Sometimes it really just comes down to the luck of the die roll. Who goes first, what cards you have in hand, stuff like that. And when you play budget, it's a struggle sometimes. At locals, you'll see other people playing extremely meta powerful decks that may not be so budgeted as yours, but really you can go really far just with a couple bucks, honestly.
Yeah. I have one last question pertaining to budget specifically. In all of your, how do you feel that the budget experience how it differs between Yu-Gi-Oh and One Piece?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's so from what I have noticed, they're there's a big difference, and that's coming from a player who plays budget both in One Piece and Yu-Gi-Oh. I played Yu-Gi-Oh for a couple years, not too crazy like some other people I know, but with Yu-Gi-Oh, a good deck you'll see is maybe around like $40 to $60. Not like crazy competitive, but just really strong. And that's kind of where I play. I used to play an Abyss Actor Pendulum deck in Yu-Gi-Oh, and to those who are more familiar with One Piece, Pendulum cards are widely hated by the Yu-Gi-Oh community as a whole. Yugi Boomer's brains. That's what we call
Like the old
the
players.
old players, fans of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, stuff like that. It melts their brains, having to cheat out basically uh, a bunch of cards from
Mm, mm.
for seemingly free.
Yeah.
But I played that deck consistently when I was in my Yu-Gi-Oh phase, and it served me well. It's my favorite deck.
Mm.
But let's go back onto the One Piece. Sammy, how would you say your budgeting experience treated you?
Um, my budgeting experience has mostly just been getting into it because once you're getting into a card game, you don't want to spend terribly too much on it.
Yeah.
My Uta deck started with the ST, I think it was 16. I don't remember the number, but the
Mhm.
starter deck with all the event cards, the second starter. That was where my deck started from, and then I bought all the singles.
Mhm.
The only really expensive card that I would have played is the 9-cost green Zoro.
Yeah.
But otherwise, every other card was pretty budget.
Yeah.
So I've kind of was forced to play budget.
Mhm.
And I don't know all the jank cards because my favorite cards are like the weird tech pieces
Yeah.
that you don't see very often.
Mhm.
But I have not been in One Piece long enough to fully
Yeah.
grasp what those ones are.
And how would you say the difference between the Yu-Gi-Oh budget and One Piece budget is?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is strange because there are so many like staple cards you can put in any deck,
Mhm.
and those ones are typically either more expensive or at least back in the day when we were playing,
Exactly.
they were really expensive. Like back when Fualas first came out, it was like $80 per copy,
Mhm.
and now it's gone down a lot. But at the time, if you wanted to have a good deck, you had to spend like 100 $200 on just the staple cards that you could put on anything. But after you do that, it did seem pretty reasonable, but not nowhere near as reasonable as One Piece. The decks that I've wanted to build and I've looked into, except for the red green smoker, but those ones have lots of alt arts, and
Mhm.
I don't like those. That's like probably the most expensive deck I've seen.
Yeah.
But otherwise, everything's been relatively affordable. Like the Uta, like I mentioned, the starter deck was $13 when I got it in store,
Exactly.
and then all the singles afterwards were maybe $20 total.
Mhm.
So
I will say that Yu-Gi-Oh requires a lot of staple cards that help buff up the decks a lot, and those staple cards can be very pricey. But with One Piece, a lot of the decks are unique to themselves, and a lot of the staples that may cost a little more, be a little more pricier, between upwards of $10 and $20. Those can be subbed out a lot easier in One Piece for other choice picks that can be much more cheaper. Now, I will say that we are a One Piece podcast, so let's get back onto the One Piece TCG train. Sammy, tell me, what is your least favorite One Piece card?
I no offense to you or any other of the players that I've played with last night, I did not really like playing against Blackbeard. It did feel really bad when they would discard a card. I could no longer get value from like playing Minami or playing Luffy. And then whatever they discarded, they probably brought back with Kuzan, or it just helped fuel. I'm blanking on his name. The one that keeps getting more power for every 4 cards in the graveyard or in the trash.
You're thinking of Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus, Burgess.
Yes.
But yeah, that so just the amount of value they got just from their leader, it made me a little upset, but not like mad, but more like I felt just so behind at every interaction.
As a Blackbeard player, I will 100% agree with you on that statement. He does counter a lot of he does restrict opponents from playing the game.
Yeah, and I will say, I think the card that got to me the most, like specifically in the Blackbeard deck, not just other than just the leader, is definitely the 10 cost Blackbeard, because all my games went fairly long against Blackbeard, and the 10 cost leader is just so hard for me to play through, especially with the Uta deck. Just he's such a big blocker, and then negating I got my blockers negated when he entered the field. So it was just harder for me to defend against, and it was just really a little frustrating having nothing to do against it.
Blackbeard does facilitate a game plan where he stretches the game out a little longer so he can get to those big 10-drop Blackbeards with the blocker and the negate. He also, I don't believe you mentioned, he also restricts an opponent's character from attacking the next turn.
Oh yeah,
which is really good, especially in cases when your opponent has a big beater out on the field and you just take away that resource.
Exactly, because I'm playing lots of. I have 3 copies of the 9 cost smoker that kills something on play, and it was it kills a KO's arrested character, I think. But yeah, whenever I have a big attacker on the board, he just continuously gets stopped from attacking, and then by the time that he would be able to attack, I was dead.
Yeah.
So.
No, I can see why you hate the card so much.
Yeah.
You have a disdain for it.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played. I obviously haven't had enough time to like actually hate it, but it was frustrating, the position that it forced me to be into in both games.
That does sound like an annoying card. And if you'd ask me though, the most annoying card in the history of One Piece, I might dare, is the 3-cost black Nefertari Vivi card, which is I believe a 1,000 power blocker with a trigger that says play this card. And you may be wondering, why do you hate this card so much? And the reason is, when I first was looking into building the Blackbeard, which I have now, and it is so much fun, it's my favorite deck. When I was looking into deck building, I saw one deck list that ran the card, and it infinitely confused me why it ran the card over Vasco Shot, who is an in-archetype blocker with 1,000 more power and does the exact same thing, and it costs 1 less. It's 2 cost. So it's a card. So Vivi is a card that costs more, has less power, and can't be searched by the in-archetype searchers. And it just bugged me to heck. It's my least favorite card. I don't know what to say.
I mean, I feel like the only reason they play it is for the off chance that they get the trigger. But at the same time, they only played 2 of it, right?
That's right. Only 2. And that in cases where you do hit that trigger, that's really good. But I will say, just not worth it, especially if you're running 2. That you obviously aren't going to be hitting that very often, and if you do, value, but if not, then
no value.
Also, Vasco Shot is one of my favorite One Piece characters, so that might also have something to do with it.
Yeah, that would bias you a little bit, yeah.
It disrespected me on a personal level, and I hate the card.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm sorry. We're not even talking about actual hated, like generally hated cards by the community.
It's just personal grievances.
Exactly. Not there are some hated cards. There's I believe Gum Gum Giant, I believe, is a bothersome card to some. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been in the community, been around the rounds too often, but I have seen some things. There's some things where I don't know the reason why, but I can't understand it on a surface level. Things like Purple Luffy being brain dead, or Red Shanks being also brain dead. To a lesser degree, but yeah. But yeah, if you had to pick a different card that you just had a personal grievance with, other than VV, if you could think of it off the top of your head, do you have one?
Mostly it revolves around Unga Bunga beat you up type decks,
like Bello Betty.
Exactly. Now, Sammy, we've talked about hatred, which, it's good. It's good to have a little hate and spite. But what would you say is your favorite card?
My favorite card is probably the I'm Invincible card in the Uta deck. That card, I didn't really learn how to use it until the tail end of the last game. I played against Blackbeard, where I was able to get through both blockers and then attack face for some life. I didn't have enough in me to actually close out the game, but I did get all the life out. And just that helped invigorate me to learn more about One Piece, because it just felt so satisfying to be able to turn Uta sideways multiple times in a row and get through all of the big blockers.
I love that. I love just finding cards that you just love to play.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what about yourself?
Oh, me? Obviously, two cost blocker Vasco shot. It's up there. I think, personally though, if I were to say something else, I am a big fan of the Jesus Burgess that is commonly run in many Blackbeard decks. He is 4 cost, 5,000 power, I believe. And his ability is that he can't be KO'd by opponent's card effects. And his primary ability, though, is that he gains plus 1,000 for every 4 cards you have in your graveyard, and which is crazy.
It's insane.
You just get so much raw power out of it. Blackbeard, the deck facilitates a lot of discarding and just trashing a lot of your cards. So having just a scaling character that by the end of the game can hit like 9,000 to 10,000 power, even in some cases, just from all of the cards being trashed, is just so powerful and is a really good card to just close out games. And I'd say that's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite.
Yeah, especially in the Blackbeard deck.
In the
Blackbeard he trashes to activate the ability, and then Blackbeard can search out for, like, in the deck they have searchers for Kuzan that can bring a character back from the trash. So you can trash something for value, then replace it for something else with Kuzan.
And he also gives card draw, which you can use later for either the stage that lets you trash a card or discard from hand and then search another card, or the Blackbeard power itself, where you discard and then negate, which is, it's so powerful. It's a great deck. I could talk about it for hours, but to talk about a different deck with another card I love is the 5 cost purple Eustace Kid blocker that I run in my king deck. Now, I mentioned I had a queen deck, but I also have a king deck, a black purple king. The strategy of the king deck mostly revolves around minusing Dawn cards for powerful effects, and which is a really fun deck that I built on a whim. The Eustace Kid, though, brings a lot of value to the king deck. Basically, every time a Dawn card is returned to the Dawn deck, which is what you want to be doing with the leader, you get a Dawn from you can grab a Dawn from the Dawn deck and set it as active, which is really good recursion. It basically just says, yeah, get another Dawn. Go ahead. Yeah, and I just love it.
I mean, perfect synergies like that are everything we love, right?
We love synergy cards. So good.
So, other than, because you said you played Blackbeard, Blue-Yellow Queen, and Black-Purple King, right? Yes. Which of those, if you were given the opportunity to go a little bit around your budget, which would you want to upgrade the most?
Now, I am, like I said, I'm a budget player, but if I was, were to extend financial, to be a little less frugal with my decks, I would definitely choose the Blackbeard. My Blackbeard build, it was, I believe, under $30 total, which is really great, especially if you want to pick up a deck that's really strong but doesn't hurt the wallet. Is Blackbeard, because a lot of it revolves, like a lot of the cost revolves around the finger pistol event card, which I don't have in my Blackbeard deck, but if I were to add any expensive staples, that's what I would go for. Basically, the event card lets you trash the top 2 cards, I believe, from your deck, and KO up to one 5 or less cost character on your opponent's side of the field, if I'm not mistaken. It's just so good for the deck. it lets you get cards and trash for free, which like I
Hmm.
said is really great. Then it's a good piece of removal. But currently it's sitting at a price of $10, and it doesn't look like it's moving anytime soon. And as a budget player myself,
Yeah.
it's a little intimidating to run four of. Basically, you're dropping what is enough money for another deck for
Hmm.
just a playset.
Yeah.
But what about you, Sammy? If you were to, you were saying you actually have new cards for the
Yeah.
Uta deck. What would you suggest?
Um, well, the card that I bought it was like a $30, the 9 cost Zoro that I feel like I mentioned it earlier. But it's just such a powerful attacker. You could attack almost 3 times every turn. It depends on how you're playing, obviously. Um,
Sounds good.
yeah, but it is just such a strong attacker. Helps with the Uta because you get lots of value with Uta. It may not be a film card, but it is really good if you can find it. But the next deck I'm building is Red Green Smoker, and it does have some pretty pricey cards in it. But I already bought the only Smoker that was in a binder at locals was the Parallel Art, which was like $30 by itself. So I did pick that up while I was there. I'm certainly not as budget as you are, but
Yes.
yeah.
That's why you're wild card and I'm budget.
Exactly.
That matches us to a T.
Yeah, but I don't see many. I was looking through lots of the deck lists for the Smoker deck the other day being last night, and I didn't see them playing Zoro at all, which I will put in there. I paid $30 for it. I got to use it, you know.
Yeah, I would if you do. I will say to anyone out there considering spending a little more on cards, if you do want to branch out, be less frugal, definitely get your money's worth.
Yeah,
because it's always worth it.
Yeah, see if there's any cards that you like. If there are multiple decks that you want to play, if there are any cards that you want to put in both of them, that you could put in both of the decks, or any of the amount of decks that you're wanting to play, then definitely do that. That's probably the best advice we could give for that particular instance, especially because we were playing Yu-Gi-Oh, which has the staples. So if you have a staple, like a staple green card, and you make multiple green decks, then that's definitely more worth it.
I will say this is off topic from what we've been talking about, but I feel just with One Piece, it's what we've been talking about kind of reminds me of this. But buying packs it feels really good in One Piece, especially when you are able to find the cards you need. I feel because I've bought a couple packs, not anything crazy, just I bought a couple packs just from seeing them in stores, seeing what people have on hand, and I've gotten a lot of use out of what I've pulled. I feel like a lot of other games like Yu-Gi-Oh, buying packs is almost completely different.
Oh yeah,
because you basically in Yu-Gi-Oh they're coming out with sets every couple of months. There's a lot of cards and
most of them are like archetype specific cards that you will never want to need.
Exactly.
Like if you're pulling, let's say you're pulling in Yu-Gi-Oh for one specific deck that just got support, you're looking for maybe 5 or 6 cards out of the maybe 80 cards total, and everything else is almost completely useless to you. Whereas in One Piece, if you pull like any red card you pull, you could potentially put in a deck, and it could be useful.
Exactly. That's the exact point I wanted to get out there. Just I've noticed so much just out of the bulk I have, I've been able to find the cards I need for whatever deck that I'm looking into or helping someone else build, just because just how useful the cards are, I feel.
Yeah, like when the last couple times we met up, right? I have you take a look at the bulk cards that I had, just from the couple packs I've opened, and I've seen you pull out like a couple, 3 or 4 cards, and just start, saying that the things that you needed that I just randomly pulled. And it is really nice to see, as opposed to like us opening Yu-Gi-Oh packs and just throwing them in a drawer. Okay, so Ethan, let's just dive into what decks we want to build, because we've already discussed what decks we already have.
That's true.
So you said you wanted to build the Yellow Kid deck, yeah?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've always been a fan of Kid in the show. He's a really cool character, and the new Yellow Kid deck is really interesting. It's not as meta relevant as some of the other decks, especially the Blackbeard one, but it's still a really cool looking deck that I'd be interested in playing. He's got a really neat effect. Basically, at the end of your turn, you may turn one card from the top of your life cards face up, and then set one of your supernovas between the costs of 3 to 8 as active, and it gains blocker until the end of the opponent's next turn, which is really cool. I think it really opens up a lot of avenues to play. The supernovas are really cool. Obviously, because you haven't watched the show, it's a really cool group of like the newbie pirates, which includes like Luffy and Law and Kid, obviously.
Mhm.
And I think the effect is really cool because it kind of allows you to run a lot of cards that are a lot of like attack, offense heavy cards,
And then still have some of that defense.
and then use the ability to get blockers to make them into blockers,
Mhm.
which I think is really neat. And it's and because Kid is a 5 life leader, you're getting at least, in best case scenarios, you're getting at least 5 uses out of the power, which is cool. And it's yellow, which means there are cards that let you manipulate your life, so you might be able to get even more usage out of it. I think that's really cool. And Sammy, I would like to hear, what about you? What decks are you interested in playing soon?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about budget and stuff.
Yeah.
But the Smoker deck, the red-green Smoker, I've been really looking forward to playing. I do have a couple of the cards, like the Sanji, that synergizes really well. Because Smoker gets you extra Dawn if you have a specific power. I think it's like 7,000 power or more.
Yeah.
So you just get more plays. It really loops back into that value that I really love about the Uta deck.
Yeah.
But through a different avenue, through the power and through the Dawn instead of cards in hand.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm looking forward to. Being able to play some more of an aggressive deck as opposed to a value engine is what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think that's really cool.
Do you have any other decks that you're interested in playing? Maybe once OP11 comes out, or maybe anything?
Yeah, well, we've been seeing a lot of preview cards from the set that's coming out, I believe, in the beginning of June, actually. And it's really exciting to see all the new leaders coming out. I know the blue-purple Luffy is really strong, and I think it's going to be... You're going to see a lot more, especially in locals and stuff.
Yeah,
once it comes out. But I'm excited for myself personally, either the purple Katakuri or the red-black Kobe decks.
How do you think your Blackbeard deck will fare in the upcoming metagame, from just from what you've seen briefly?
Ooh, that's well, obviously I haven't gone up against any of the decks, right? But we'll see for sure. I'm not sure about the matchups. I haven't seen any of them, but I know there's some. I know blue purple Luffy is going to be scary, but I don't know. I'm excited to see different matchups, the new leaders, see how they fare.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I'm interested in the red black Kobe.
Yeah.
Just the sword type in general. I'm curious to see what they do. I think it's interesting because we're getting into One Piece at this time, right before OP11 comes out.
Yeah.
Before all these powerful looking cards come out, and so we're able to really develop with the metagame. I think is going to be the biggest strength in that regard.
Yes,
right,
for sure.
Especially if we look at the new cards in relation to some of the older ones that we haven't really played with. Because you said you were wanting to play the purple. What's his name?
Who?
Magellan?
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I've seen there was some Impel Down from what I've saw.
Yeah, I think, just some more support for older characters is cool. Older leaders.
You think you'd be interested in playing would you be more into playing the Magellan deck if it has more support?
Well, if I can build it budget style.
Yeah, as we get closer to OP11 coming out, I feel like we'll have developed a little bit more in our plays and knowing of the metagame. What do you think you hope for in the future of this podcast?
Well, of course, Sammy, I hope that we are able to grow. I hope we can find that community and we can really take root. I hope that we find an audience that will share our love for the game and even reach new people to get new people into the hobby. I am really excited to keep playing, to keep building decks, and for the new stuff coming out. And I think you can agree with me on that, Sammy, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I think the main thing that I'm looking forward to is getting as many people into this game as we can, even if it's not directly through our community, through the podcast or anything. If anyone starts to play the game because of us, then we'll have done it. And to help that, please, if you could, audience, share this with your friends, people you want to get into the card game. You can see some people taking one step ahead of them in their journey. That's kind of our goal right now.
Mm-hmm. And just if you would leave a like down below. I hope you were able to get to know me and Sammy better. We hope to continue our journey, our Grand Line adventure. And as always, your budget is my business.
And Jank is king.
Thanks for watching. Until next on.